Joining us right now to talk about some of the big topics of the day on set, we have David Webb, the host of The David Webb Show on Sirius XM Radio, and he's also the co-founder of Tea Party 365, like a coalition of the various...
Right, where we don't occupy anything.
Yes.
I got to get that one in there for starters.
All the Tea Party, Occupy Wall Street comparisons are running wild these days. And joining us, as you can see, from D.C., we have David Mercer, a Democratic strategist. Thank you, as always, for being with us, David.
It's good to be with both of you.
Morning, David.
Good morning.
All right.
How are you, David?
So? I think both Davids seem good, so let's get right to it. The big talk now in the Republican race for the presidential GOP nomination is, of course, Herman Cain. He's at the top of all the polls now. So the opinion pieces in the major newspapers are focusing on Mr. Cain. Washington Post writing an article today saying that his style is simple solutions and also a willingness to say, I don't know. The simple solution, obviously, being his 999 plan, getting widespread publicity, a flat 9% personal income tax, 9% business tax, and also a 9% national sales tax, which would bring in some of the revenue that would be lost by those much lower other rates. But also the rates would be more like your traditional flat tax without the same number of exemptions, deductions, etc. that we see now, which some people say would be more fair, some people say less fair. And let's talk about the 999 plan. We'll start with David Webb.
Well, I mean, two things that are very important about what Cain's done. Finally, someone has brought it to the front of real tax reform because, as he says very effectively, even the other candidates are looking at the current system, keep it in place. It is incremental, and if you go to his website, you see clear that it's the 999 plan, then something I'm in favor of, which is the fair tax. So moving towards a consumption-based system. And what we've seen are the attacks against it, which are false, coming out of the left. And they say, well, you know, the lower income people are going to pay more. They're actually not, because 15.3%, which already comes out, will change to 9%. That's a gain of 6%. And as for the argument that they never had a tax they didn't increase in Congress, there are provisions in this. The reality that we have to look at is the likelihood of getting this through. Unfortunately, influence peddling and lobbyists in Washington, D.C. and special concerns, they want their tax subsidies, they want their loopholes. GE, being one of the biggest crony capitalists, you know, even had themselves written into the $447 billion jobs bill with a $50 billion
Let me get David Mercer in now on the 999 plan. And, you know, David Webb makes a point, which is that, you know, the president can come up with a plan, but it's still Congress that has to pass it. And some people are saying what you want in a president isn't as much the specific plan, because it's going to get picked apart and changed by Congress before anything passes anyway, but more of an overall leader. And now that Herman Cain is right there on the top, people are saying we're not sure he's got those broad leadership skills, the foreign policy know-how, etc. Are those legitimate concerns?
They are legitimate concerns, and admittedly so by the candidate Herman Cain himself. And you're right with regard to a plan. I think he has excited the party with regard to having a simple plan, which is a rarity in the Republican field of coming from the Republican field of candidates. I might just say, though, that we need a plan now to put more money in the pockets of the middle class, as we would do with the extension of the payroll tax cut. We need to get teachers back to work educating our kids. We need to have bridges rebuilt so that they don't cave in on us. That said, with regard to the tax proposal by Herman Cain, and we do need reform in the tax system. However, even Romney's people, as of yesterday, were coming out, not just liberals, as David had mentioned, critiquing that tax. And if you think about it, 31 states do not have that sales tax, and 31 states are going to have to hear from Herman Cain as to why they would go for his plan. And certainly in New Hampshire, you will find that dead on arrival, and that's by virtue of someone who would know, and that's the Romney camp.